All right. So yeah, Lance von Liebenfels he initiates Hitler, and Hitler starts joining these various weird occult organizations. Um, so now this is, mind you, this is all before World War II. At one point, Hitler leaves Austria while he's still a relatively young man, and goes to Vienna, Switzerland, which is heavy duty Templar territory. I mean, although at that point I guess they're sort of calling themselves Templars because up in they weren't persecuted up in that part of the mountain. I mean, to a large extent, they weren't persecuted just because it's too much of a pain in the ass to climb all the way up a fucking mountain to per, persecute people. So especially back in those days, it's like people had to decide, well, they're up in the mountains. Should we go get them? It's like, I don't know. Do you want to climb them all the way up that fucking mountain just so we can burn them at the stake? I'd rather sit here and eat my stew. But anyway, so yeah, and I was talking about how at the end of the 19th century, the European elite, it was becoming fashionable to go searching for this Aryan god race in the Himalayas, Tibet, northern India, Nepal, those types of places. Decades later, and also it's worth mentioning as well, Nietzsche and other prominent thinkers of that day, Lance von Liebenfeld and other very prominent. The turn of the century was a very philosophical time for the German nation. There was a lot of it was actually kind of similar to the States nowadays. There was a lot of heavy duty philosophy and occult type stuff that was going mainstream and hitting not only the elites but the middle class and even the working classes. Hitler was not an elite. He was, he was by no means a peasant, but he was about a middle class guy. His dad was like a government clerk or something like that. And a raging drunk, which plays into the story as well. Yeah, his dad, when he wasn't at work, he was fond of drinking alcohol and then beating the shit out of young Adolf's mother. And so, yeah, you're raised in that kind of environment. You want to get all the fucking power you can, so you'll never be in that vulnerable situation again. Period. End of story. So, then Hitler starts getting these secret occult teachings mixed with the lost time of the Knights Templar and these spooky Templar order teachings that he's discovering in Vienna, up in the Alps, the Swiss Alps, and Austria is pretty close to the Alps. That's up in the Alps too, but it's funny how this stuff comes down from the Alps. But anyway, the ideals of chivalry from the Germanic god legends really appealed to a young Adolf Hitler. Because he wanted to be the Germanic godlike hero that saves his mom from the evil drunken dad. So, like I said, yeah, his dad used to beat his mother under the influence of alcohol. Real nice guy, and created a kid that was really fucking mean and power hungry. Way to go, Adolf's dad. So, Adolf had a deeply entrenched. If I may play amateur psychologist for a second here, the young Adolf had a deep desire to free himself and his mother from evil as a knightly hero. And the reason I say that is because he started really taking refuge in a lot of these more esoteric type writings, and he started reading a lot about the romantic world of German legends in which good always wins over evil, and there's a lot of chivalry, and there's an adventure. You get to carry a sword and search for the Holy Grail and all that type of stuff. I mean, you know, in a lot of ways, I can see where young Adolf is coming from. I mean, but in a lot of ways, not. I mean, yeah. So anyway, we won't get into that now, will we? Though, no, we won't, because the show is not about me, is it? No, it's not. Okay, so let me check out this YouTube thing here real fast. Okay, everything's going good there. So, this mysticism of the polarity of good and evil reaches its peak in Vienna with the study of ancient Indo-Aryan legends and myths. Yeah, so a lot of these occultists at the time were getting heavily into the different. They were getting into the study of the Vedas, these sacred Indian texts, these ancient sacred Indian texts, and these ancient texts and the views of prominent thinkers such as Nietzsche and Lance von Liebenfeld, they literally formed Hitler's worldview of good and evil. When he was in Vienna, yeah, he was pretty much of a broke loser. He lived in a men's hospice, and pretty much all he did during the day was like go to the library and read, or try to get Lance von Liebenfeld's latest issue of Ashtara and the racist occult magazine. And he basically just, he was self-taught, you know, he was self-taught. He taught himself about all this crazy, weird occult crap. And so yeah, he really starts thinking that, hey man, there's a war going on, and it's the god race against the animal races. And yeah, like I said, Hitler lived in Vienna's men's hospice. He was not doing well in Vienna. He was a struggling artist, trying to sell his paintings, and wasn't doing so well. But still, you know, he would hit his, like I said, his family was like middle class. They weren't hurting, so it was like he wasn't an aristocrat, but his family was well enough off to where, you know, he could hit his sister up for money or hit his mom up for money or what have you. And so, you know, he was still able to eat, but he thought maybe, you know, he could be able to sell art, you know, become an artist if he traveled to Vienna and tried to sell things. But he did okay, but, you know, it was totally not paying the bills. That's why he lived in a men's hospice. So, needless to say, yeah, I repeat, he was heavily influenced by these texts. So it's a whole new side to Hitler. I mean, Hitler the occultist is what I'm talking about. This guy was heavily into the occult. I mean, just heavily. He couldn't get enough of it. It was his bread and butter. And but I guess he was more into the intellectual side of it, or the studious side of it, than the ritual side of it. To an extent. I mean, he definitely performed in some crazy ritual stuff. I mean, you had to, if you're involved in some of these esoteric orders. But you know, that's one of the funny things you learn about occultism, or you know, this kind of stuff, is you think, okay, well, I'm going to join this esoteric order, man, and they're going to teach me about magic, and I'm going to be able to cast spells and blah, 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 and whatnot. And what's funny is you join these esoteric orders, and they say, here's your reading list. It's like, all right, you read these 100 books, and then get back to me. So that's pretty, you know, it's pretty much what the occult is. The occult is more study than anything else. It's just you're sitting there reading book after book after book after book after book. It's not like you turn into a mighty wizard overnight. You're casting spells and, you know, hexing your enemies and stuff like that. And most of these esoteric orders, it's all about just it's more of just a book study type program. Believe it or not, and where you're absorbing hidden knowledge. Which is occult is Latin for hidden. For those of you who didn't know, and I'm not trying to talk down to you. I'm saying I know most of the people who are listening to the show probably already know that, but anyway, Hitler's dad beats mom. He's an alcoholic. Little Hitler's really scared shitless, and feels the only way he can get by in this world is if he grasps for tons and tons of power. So, yeah, he's in Vienna. He's not doing so well, trying to sell his art, not doing so well, but at the same time, he's getting totally involved in the occult and just loves it, eats it up like gravy. And all this stuff influenced Hitler so much that he lived in his own fantasy world. Hitler came upon the books of Guido von List. He was another occultist of the time, another important thinker of the time, a total racist, but also an occultist as well. And so, yeah, and later Hitler starts getting turned on to Lance von Liebenfeld and his magazine Ashtara, and he starts reading his books. So the fire to free the world from all dark forces was unleashed, and the Vedas and Lance von Liebenfeld tell this tale of blonde-haired, blue-eyed ETs that come to this planet from somewhere in the universe. And these beings commingle with the ape-like Earth races. And the Vedas, they call these offsprings little monkeys. And they threaten the culture which the blonde, according, to these legends, they threatened the culture which the blonde and blue-eyed ETs had created. So we have this fight that starts between the animal human beings and the noble god race of humans, and this leads to the necessary destruction of the lower beings, which would usher in a godlike era. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is all this kind of crap is the main thrust behind Nazi anti-Semitism. Granted, the Nazis haven't even started yet. This is the kind of shit Hitler is reading when he's a young man, and when he's a young man over there in Switzerland before World War I starts, and he's just getting totally fueled up on this god race and testosterone. I think it's before he found out he was a quarter Jew too, but shh, don't tell anyone. Oh yeah, I was gonna check out this YouTube thing real fast. Do 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 do. Yeah, we better put that up there.